And welcome to Inside the Program on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm your host, Justin Wells. With me, as always, Eric Nalin, managing publisher at InsideTexas.com. Please, before we even get into the good stuff today, like our video, subscribe to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel. Help us get to that 8,000 mark. We are climbing each day. Also, come see us at InsideTexas.com. If you use the promo code IT1, that will get you 2 months of InsideTexas.com for only $1. That's all through the official visit season. That's team workouts, summer reports. That's everything. There's so much good stuff there. Come see us at InsideTexas.com. Good to see you as always, Eric. It's always a pleasure to get to holler at you. Hey, we got some team stuff and we got some recruiting stuff because that's what we do best at Inside Texas. So let's dive into the team stuff first. You had a really good think piece this week on overlooked Longhorns. And you know, a lot of times we talk about the big names. We talk about the guys that have the expectations, but some guys sometimes get a little behind the scenes that they don't know as much about them. Sometimes the expectations don't meet their freshman year. Let's talk a little bit about some of these guys because I thought this list was really good. I want you to start on the offensive side of the ball. You got a couple guys there that I think are dynamic playmakers. There's just other guys around them as well that seem to get a little bit more notoriety. Why don't you start with the offensive guys?
Yeah, C.J. Baxter was the first guy I mentioned. Running back, of course, he came in with a lot of fanfare, very highly rated. Some had him as the number one running back in the nation. Running back is often a position that you can make an immediate impact, and it looked like he was headed that way. Sark named him the starter, even ahead of Jonathan Brooks to open the season. He got dinged up in the opener against Rice, and I'm not sure he ever quite caught his footing after that. Battled through injuries, ran a little timid at times. I think he was still getting used to the schemes. He ran a lot of gap schemes, which create a lot more certainty for a running back as opposed to zone schemes where you kind of have to feel your way through it. And I think it was just a transition year for him. However, I'm not down on him in the slightest. I think that he's going to be very good this year. I think he's going to have a great career. I think he's going to live up to all the hype. But because of Jaden Blue's breakout and how electric he is as a ball carrier, I think that C.J. Baxter's going a little bit under the radar right now. I think he's going to run with more power this year. I think he's going to run with more confidence, more decisiveness, and he's got a good combination of power and speed that I think is going to become pretty obvious like it was in high school this upcoming season.
Hey, the running back room, it's easy to get overlooked there, Eric. I mean, Choice has stocked the cupboard pretty well. There's a lot of good big names in that room as well. And so it goes without saying that Baxter, sometimes there's competition there. At wide receiver, this is a guy we don't hear as much. The fancy names are Isaiah Bond, Ryan Wingo. Those are the ones people talk about, Jonte Cook. But here's another guy that is about as consistent as you get in the program, and he has a very good, he has a great connection with the quarterbacks, especially Arch Manning. Talk about DeAndre Moore.
Yeah, he's got some maturity in that room, and there's a lot of new faces. They're young in other spots. They lost a lot of leadership this past year. I think Moore's kind of doing his best to fill that void. He's got very, very good speed. He's going to bring a more vertical element to that position than Jordan Whittington last season. And you're right. He works hard. He blocks. He's a blocker. He's going to kind of help remediate the absence of Whittington. Losing his blocking, that kind of fullback out in space that Whittington was. I think DeAndre Moore is a willing blocker. And I think he's got a chance to make some big plays. We've seen him flash in the spring game this past year. He flashed the year before he dropped it, but you could see his open field speed is very good at the slot. He might be the fastest slot they have outside of Niblett. I just don't think Niblett's quite as ready as Moore. So, I do expect, I get asked all the time, are they going to play a deeper bench this year? I do anticipate that, and I think that's going to help Moore get on the field, whether he starts or not. He's going to play a lot. And I think he's going to make some plays down the field where everybody's focused on the outside receivers, and he's going to be putting some safeties to work.
He certainly made that first play or second play of the spring game. He made a big play there and and really caught Terrence Brooks by surprise a little bit. Let's go talking about defensive players. Let's go on that side of the field. When you say linebacker, I think the first thought is always Anthony Hill Jr., and it should be. He's a beautiful and glorious 6'2.5", 6'3", 235 pounds. He should be. But listen, there's another guy back there that I think does a lot of good stuff. He's hyper athletic. He's one of those hybrids where he came in with some safety ability. He did a lot of good things on special teams. Hey, call me Maurice Blackwell. Tell me what Mo Blackwell does and why he's so overlooked.
Yeah, he was such a football player on high school tape. Kind of like everybody falls in love with Michael Terry right now. Go watch Maurice Blackwell's high school tape just for fun and count how many different positions he played. He sort of brings that versatility to the position. Hasn't always been as good in coverage as he should be. That's more of a mental thing rather than a physical and athletic traits thing. He's getting a lot more comfortable in all of his duties. Even though he's a senior, he hasn't played a ton, and he has battled through some injuries at times, and he hasn't always been the ideal weight. Well, right now he's up over 220 pounds. He looks the part. He plays the part. He's a lot more confident. He brings great energy to the room, to the program. You say hyper athletic. He's just hyper in general. He's always ready to work. He's got some leadership intangibles. Everybody talks about Hill and David Benda as well. I think Maurice Blackwell is going to play a lot, and it's interesting that he also plays Sam. So when they're in base defense, you're going to see him out on the field. He's going to play a good amount this year. I think I always get asked about every linebacker except for him. It seems like, and that's why he's kind of stood out as being overlooked. He's a good player.
Yeah, the Arlington Martin grad. He's been doing really well in Austin for the last 3 or 4 years. This could be that breakout year. When we talk in the secondary and you mention nickel and star, you instantly think of Jahdae Barron and the fact that he came back, and I think that kind of goes under the radar that Barron is back. That veteran back there in that back seven is back five sometimes is really good. Jalen Gilbo. I mean, each time we talked to sources this spring, each time you had a practice report or team report, Jalen Gilbo's name gets mentioned over and over. We saw him on Saturday. He looks fantastic. Eric, why is he so overlooked in Texas right now?
Yeah, he arrived with a little fanfare, but then he flashed immediately for good and bad reasons. He was making some noise early on. And we were thinking, hey man, this guy might be a superstar. He's going to have to wait his turn, but he's got some real upside here. And then he kind of just disappeared to the point, Sark even joked about, after spring ball, he's like, hey, welcome back, Jalen Gilbo. He's a dog, man. You got to be a dog at that position. Jahdae's a dog. You've got to have that mentality that you're going to take on bigger blockers. You got to play the run game like a linebacker. You got to cover like a corner. He's got those traits, but he had to put it together. I was concerned that he was going to leave during the winter portal season, especially with the talk of Jahdae Barron coming back. He stuck around, and not only did he stick around, he had his best practice block so far. I think the fact that Barron is going to play more corner lets Jalen Gilbo realize, hey, I'm going to play a whole lot of snaps this year. Yeah. Obviously, the staff feels really confident about him. Otherwise, they wouldn't have let Austin Jordan roll out. I think he's going to play a lot this year, especially when Barron's at corner.
Eric, that's a great point. You know who isn't overlooked? Andre the Lawyer. Anytime you're hurt, anytime you're stuck, on the job injuries, 18-wheeler accidents, wrongful deaths, this longtime Inside Texas reader, longtime Longhorn faithful, Andre the Lawyer is the guy you need to call. He's located in Dallas, Texas, 214-444-8808. That's Andre the Lawyer at 214-444-8808. Give him a call if you ever need him. He's Anthony Hill. He's consistent. He's there all the time, and he comes downhill. All right. Now we're going to dive into recruiting. And before we get into the official visit weekend with 6 recruits that we're going to talk about and give you some percentages on, let's talk about a Texas commit out of Melbourne, Florida. Brandon Brown, defensive tackle. D-line recruiting seems to be the hot topic right now in the industry. And Brandon Brown is a guy that, I don't know how committed he is, Eric. I got to tell you, I caught up with his family yesterday. They're still pledged to Texas, but they're treating it like he's not committed. They're definitely doing the song and dance with all these teams, with all these programs. He just got off the LSU OV. I felt very strongly about LSU flipping him. I still kind of think they have the upper hand. He'll be at Tennessee this weekend. He's still going to see Texas. He's still going to flirt with those Florida schools. But with Brandon Brown, just hold on loosely. This is a guy that he's out of state. And so you're always a little hesitant on how kids are kept in there. But Eric, it really just goes to the urgency of D-line recruiting, because I think that's the one position that's got fans kind of stumped the most. They want to see some action right now. And I think the long play, would you say the long run and the long play at D line might be the safest route right now?
Yeah, I think it's all going to work out. It's going to be some bumps along the road and maybe a little bit of turbulence. It's important that the staff recruits him like he's uncommitted, and they recruit the position like they have 0 guys committed. Maybe they can get some Florida guys in there, keep them company. Maybe they can get a Florida commit or 2 in the coming weeks or months that'll help them out, and then you can kind of build a consensus in that area with guys. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he decommitted. Hopefully, he's still committed by the time he comes to visit at Texas, and just see it. But if they lose him, they got to replace him. If they hold on to him, great. But they got to be aggressive. They got to land 4 good players. They got to land some guys that can play next year. They got to land some guys that have high upside. They got to land some guys that have high floors. They've got to kill it. But I feel pretty good about where they sit on defensive tackle recruiting, despite there being a little bit of headwinds here and there. They just got to keep fighting through it.
2 of those big D linemen on the big board are going to be on campus this weekend. There's a 6-pack of recruits headed to Austin for official visit weekend. You dropped an article this morning about percentages. We're going to go through each one of those real quick, and we're going to start with a defensive lineman because that's what we were talking about, and we know the importance there. And to me, the best one on the board is Josiah Sharma out of Folsom, California, or Folsom High School rather, in Sacramento. Yep. This is a cat, big, nasty guy. This is a guy that you usually see on draft day walking across the stage. Was formerly committed to Washington and head coach Kalen DeBoer. Kalen takes the job at Alabama. Now Alabama becomes the de facto leader in that recruitment. But they're getting him on campus. There's some Texas has some advantages here that may not be as known. And I think that's the biggest key with Sharma. Talk a little bit about how important he is and your percentage, and then I'll shoot mine at you.
Well, they need 2 big guys, and then they need 2 athletic mobile guys. And, Brandon Brown obviously is your athletic mobile guy. Sharma would be one of your big guys. Zion Williams would count for one of those big guys as well. So the bigger they are, the harder they are to find. And so, Sharma, that puts priority on Sharma. I can't believe he's rated as a 90 or something. He should be a 94, 95 probably. Very talented guy, very athletic for his size. It's Oregon, Alabama, or Texas. I think Alabama has a slight lead right now. Texas did well in the spring visit, caught their attention. I think there's a little nugget there that you shared a week or 2 ago that I think is probably flying under the radar a little bit. We're not 100% sure it's going to come through, but it's definitely being talked about.
There's a chance his mother might move to Texas. She has family and friends in the DFW area, and she's actually looking at potentially moving back to Texas. That would be huge in this recruitment because Sharma definitely has that tie with his mother, like most, and he wants to be around her. And I think that's a big factor. Listen, if they can get through this official visit weekend and really solidify their standing, they'll get him back on campus this fall. That's when we talked about earlier, the long game. Because with some of these guys, that's what it's going to take.
Well, he's gonna announce in July. They better be urgent on this one. And what it was told to us is if she does move to DFW, that does help Alabama too. That's she's cutting her flight from Sacramento in half, and so that it could be a benefit to Alabama as well. But I like where Texas is. I put them at 40%.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm probably at 30, 35%. I want some clarity after this OV. Obviously he's going to love it. The attention, the facilities, they all say about the same thing when they leave. But we're going to have to dig in a little bit on the details for Sharma because that's a guy that you can't miss on a few of these guys. You're going to have to hit on some of these big. Another one is Myron Charles. That's a big cat out of Florida. You've got him at 40% on your percentages. Tell us why you're feeling a little optimistic there about Myron Charles.
Yeah, I think Texas knows a lot of the right people involved in that recruitment. I think that he's open to leaving the state. I kind of like when Florida State is the competition, as we'll talk about it with another player in a minute. I'm not sure that they compete in some ways. And so, I think Texas has a chance. They got to have a good visit, though, of course.
That's the big thing. And this is his second time. He's already been to Austin once in the spring. And so getting him back to me is the key. Anytime we're talking about out-of-state guys, multiple trips on campus to me always pretend a better recruitment. Edge, there's a freak in Florida. I believe it's Cocoa, Florida. Javion Hilson. This dude is a dude. He's been committed to a couple schools. Alabama first. But then when Saban retired, he decided to change his mind. flipped to Florida State. Now he's looking around for potentially a new partner. Texas has been kind of quiet in this recruitment, but they're putting a lot of emphasis on edge. They have Lance Jackson in this class. They love where they are with Marco Jones. Why 35% for Javion Hilson for you, Eric?
Yeah, in Florida State, I don't find them the most formidable competition right now. I know they had a great season last year. He's looking for stability. He was just at Florida recently, and I, I think another place that underlines the importance of stability through its absence is probably Florida. We'll have them as the number 2 school. I just don't see he would flip from Florida State to Florida. I don't see that happening. So I think Texas is already setting up to be in second place right now. And yeah, he's open to leaving the state. And my buddy that talked to him recently says he actually thinks Texas is going to win out in the end if they stay on it throughout.
I'm going to match that 35%, even though that intel's from you, just because they're putting emphasis on that edge spot, and I think they're in the mix for some pretty raw dogs, man. Staying on the defensive side, Caleb Chester. This might be the easiest of the recruitments for the most part that are coming in. We know how great Texas looks in this recruitment. You're the closest to Caleb Chester. You've got him at 70%. I'm probably leaning higher. I think 75% would probably be the best dose there. 6'2", 180 pounds. Why the high percentage on Caleb Chester, E?
Yeah, you might be more in line. It's funny, I know him better, and your percentage is probably more accurate. I don't think he's going to end up at A&M, and I'm not worried about Arkansas. It's Texas. I think it's probably always been Texas since they prioritized them. We've covered on Inside Texas. Throw the rating out the room. He, the staff views him right up there with Dorian Brew in state. And so, I think that was probably the moment that this recruitment went in UT's favor. Hasn't gone that way yet, but they still have to have a good, compelling weekend. My only concern has always been, hey, do they start playing the long game? Do they want to look around? Do they start surveying the whole land again, or do they keep the foot down on the gas and stay on this recruitment? That's been my only hesitation. I'm not saying they'll do that. I don't know. But for now and for a while, he's been a priority. So I think they are going to push to close this down. 70%, and I opine that I think he'll probably be the first DB commit, but we'll see. Boys to go.
Hey, and let's not forget he has a fantastic teammate, 2026 safety Isaiah Williams, who talks to Texas on a regular basis, and I think the Horns are in a good spot there too.
Yep.
That always helps as well, and that's a thumper back there with the junior to be. We're gonna go the athlete designation. Even though he would play defense at Texas, if he were to choose Texas, he wants to play offense, and we can't begrudge him that. The guys like to score touchdowns. Michael Terry, he's the number 1 rated athlete in the country, Eric, out of Alamo Heights in San Antonio. He's taking a visit this weekend. We have long reported, as long as his mindset is on offense, we don't feel strongly that Texas is going to be a school that's in this mix. They like him, but they also like him as a linebacker, as a potential safety. That's why our percentages are so low. You've got him at 15%. I would say it's probably 15% as well. Is there anything there fans need to know besides that about Michael Terry in Texas?
Well, if Texas missed on Nick Townsend, or if they had a spot at safety, I could see, or not safety, at tight end, I could potentially see him being on offense there. Everybody has Nebraska out front just because they're going to highlight him, give him the ball. We were just in Nashville last week, and all the rage was Nebraska. I think it's probably going to stay that way. Now, if he says, hey, you know what, I changed my mind, I want to be Jelani McDonald, just put me on defense somewhere and we'll figure it out, then it would get a lot more interesting. Because I think, I think if in a different world, if Tom Herman was recruiting or Mac Brown, that kid would have been a Longhorn already, because that's how it was lined up. But this staff is just looking at their evaluations and their options. Their wide receivers, their options are amazing. The best options Texas has had at wide receiver in forever. Running back, they already got 2 guys committed, and so it's just it's not lining up for Terry in Texas, at least on offense. Now it's up to him. You want to play defense, you probably got a spot. If not, then it's probably you got to have to find the school that highlights you at the position you want to play.
The last position to me is one of the most important on offense in the 2025 cycle. That's tight end, and there's already a commitment. Calhoun, Georgia's Emory Winston is already in the boat, but we don't feel like Emory Winston is completely in the boat. Like, I think he still has a leg in the water because he's hanging out in Auburn. And he's looking at other schools. He's been at Central Florida a couple times. And so Texas definitely wants 2 in this cycle. And they're bringing in the kid from California, Caleb Edwards. Everyone talks about Keade Armstrong and Nick Townsend. Caleb Edwards isn't mentioned as much. Tell us, a little bit about Edwards, and but he still has kind of a low percentage as I'm with you as well, and I want to see what he says coming out of this official visit. But how important is Caleb Edwards in getting 2 tight ends in this cycle?
Well, yeah, they've mainly got the way I see it right now. They've got 3 options for 2 because Emory. If Texas was recruiting him hard, would he really go to Auburn? I'm not sure. Would he be going to UCF? I'm not quite sure about that. Edwards is a stud. He reminds me of the guys that OU was getting there. Calcaterra, Andrews. Was Andrews the kid from Arizona?
Andrews,
The Ravens? Yeah, Mark Andrews. Yeah, the outside, really, really good wide receiver, long wide receiver. Going to have to do some work as a blocker, but super high upside as a receiver. Love the player. Alabama, Auburn, got to watch those schools. Auburn and Alabama are in the mix for all these guys. Nick Townsend's at Alabama right now, or headed to Alabama today. Keone Armstrong's going to Auburn next week. Edwards is going to see both of those. So there's some interesting storylines between these 3 schools right now. Right now, it's all about positioning. If Texas misses on Armstrong, they got to get Edwards. Or if they miss on Nick Townsend, they got to get Edwards. So it's going to be interesting to see. I've only got him at 15% just because, out-of-state kid. He has been to Texas earlier in the spring, said some good things about it. I'm just not, how hard is Texas going to push? I think if they had their druthers, it would probably be Armstrong's and Townsend and closed shop. Of course, Armstrong, you got to worry about A&M as well. So, I wish they probably had a few more good options because the tight end is as important as you said. But we'll see. That Jeff Banks knows what he's doing.
Jeff Banks definitely knows what he's doing. So do the guys at Inside Texas. Come see us at InsideTexas.com. We'll run a promo code right now, IT1. You get to hang out with Eric, myself, Joe Cook, Ian Boyd, Paul Wadlington, just the whole Charlie Williams, the whole cast of characters, Drew Kelson, and then our YouTube buddies. You get to see all of us. Come see us at InsideTexas.com. 2 months gets you $1. And that's the summer special. It's hot outside, but it's even hotter on the Inside Texas board. You got to come check us out. Eric, thank you so much for this edition of Inside the Program. And thank you to the fans for making us a part of your day. And come see us at InsideTexas.com, powered by the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel.